Vyse is easily one of the most dangerous sentinels in the game, utilizing disgusting trap setups to make even the strongest opponents nervous to push onto site. Introducing new mechanics such as her tripwire wall, her primary jamming ultimate, and her replenishing flash, Vyse is easily one of the most frustrating agents to go up against in the right hands. She's a master of trap setups and an especially tricky agent to deal with. That's why today we're setting out to teach you everything that you need to know about mastering Vyse, giving you the only Vyse guide that you'll ever need. We'll go over every single ability in her kit, how to use them, and then break down footage from some of the best players in the game, squeezing every bit of value out of her kit. So if you're ready to start fragging out on Vyse, stick with us. Starting with Vyse's signature ability, Arc Rose. This is a flower that you place on the wall that, when activated, flashes enemies. It's similar to Breach Flash, as you can send it through walls, but it takes a moment to set up. This makes it less effective for aggressive plays and sets Vyse apart from initiators. Her role is more like a sentinel, functioning similarly to Deadlock or Sage on your team. To use Arc Rose, you left click to place it on the wall in front of you, and you right click to send it through the wall and flash on the other side after a short delay. Once set up, it's completely stealthy. Enemies can only see it if they're within 10 meters. This makes Vyse one of the best agents of the game for setting up traps. You can place Arc Rose on the wall, flash with it, and then swing at the same time, similar to how a Skye might play, but a bit cleaner. Arc Rose will also give you a voice line if it tags an enemy, similar to the Skye Flash as well. You get a notification when enemies are flashed, making it incredibly effective as an information gathering tool. Plus, it refreshes every 20 seconds, giving it a Cypher Cam feel as well. You can use it to clear areas early on in the round, get that information, and if it gets destroyed or doesn't tag anyone, you can pull it back and use it again later. Mastering Vyse largely comes down to learning how to use and time this ability effectively. If you're struggling to use it, here's a quick tip though. One of the most effective ways to execute any sort of trap setup is always going to be waiting for your enemy to use some form of utility or show signs of presence before activating it. If they use a Reina Blind or a Silver Dart, or you hear footsteps, that is almost always a great cue to activate it and swing for free kills. Now, there is some risk here that the enemies won't use their abilities, so it could be a good idea to jump spot periodically if it's quiet, but oftentimes players in matchmaking will not be able to stay quiet enough to avoid your traps. This trick makes Vyse much more effective. Also, don't forget to combo this ability with your teammates. Flashing and swinging with two bodies is almost always going to be better than one. Because your flash can be shot, it's not always the most effective when using it alone. But your opponents can only shoot one thing at a time, so if you throw your Arc Rose out and a Gecko flashes with it, the likelihood that your enemies will get blinded is much higher. Moving on to Vyse's C ability, Razor Vines. It's similar to a Sage Slow, but if you combined it with like a Killjoy Nano Swarm. It's a long-lasting slow that damages enemies who move through it. However, enemies can avoid damage by standing still, so you can't exactly flush someone out like you can with a Molly. You get 2 charges of Razor Vine, allowing you to cover an entire area of sight pretty effectively. It's great for slowing pushes or throwing in smokes to prevent people from swinging out of them. And while this functions similar to a Molly and you might use it for similar purposes, it doesn't work exactly the same way. Razor Vine is activated like a Killjoy Nanoswarm, and it can be destroyed, so you need to be a bit proactive with it normally. Just throwing it at the enemies isn't always going to provide a ton of value, and it might actually be rather risky at times. This plays into Vyse's trap toolkit a bit. Although by many this might be considered Vyse's weakest ability, remember that you get 2 of these and they cover quite a bit of space. If the enemy executes into a site that is covered with Razor Vines, they're going to have an absolute nightmare of a time. Try to place these in positions where enemies might like to path when they get onto site. Putting it in places to potentially prevent attackers from wrapping back site could also be really frustrating to deal with. On offense, as we mentioned, throwing it in smokes on executes is great, but also don't be afraid to throw one of these suckers on the spike as well for post plant. Nobody is going to want to walk into this thing and announce their location for you to swing and land a free kill. Although they won't kill a diffuser, they will make them incredibly exposed for an easy kill. One small note, Razor Vines actually does make a noise when enemies walk through it, providing valuable information throughout its duration. Now keep in mind, similar to agents like Deadlock, although these Vines slow players, they're not always going to grab you kills. No, the only thing with Vyse that is going to grab you kills is actually your gunplay. She is one of the most aggressive sentinels in the game, so you need to play like it. Luckily for you, if you don't have the aim for it yet, we can fix that. Over at SkillCapped, our Aim God Masterclass is designed to take you from 0 to 100 in as short amount of time as possible. We cover everything there is to know about aiming, from crosshair placement, movement, how to play off of your teammates, and even how to use your utility to make aiming easier. Not to mention, our whole site is backed by a rank improvement guarantee, so if you don't climb, you don't pay. Over the last 4 years, we have helped tens of thousands of players just like you climb in Valorant, and the best part is our service has only gotten better since. So if you're serious about climbing this act, be sure to check out SkillCapped using the link below for a discount. And other than that, let's get into Vyse's third ability. Vyse's Q ability is Sheer, and it's one of the most unique abilities in the game. It's like a combination of a Sage Wall and a Cypher Tripwire. When enemies walk through it, it spawns an indestructible wall behind them, essentially making it so anyone behind them can't trade and anyone in front is stuck. I'm putting an asterisk on this because this sounds pretty crazy and might get changed in the future. But for now, this is nuts. Since the first person to cross Sero will be in front of a wall, it's not entirely meant to stop players in their tracks like a Sage Wall. Instead, this wall is meant to be placed in positions to trap off enemies who push through it, getting you free picks. Imagine a duelist entries and then the wall goes up behind them. You have a flash on the other side with your arc rows, and now everyone's getting obliterated as they run into your slows. Now, the most obvious use of Shear is to place it in choke points where enemies are going to come in. But don't underestimate the power of just placing it deeper into sight where it might mess with their execute. For example, you could force the spike planner to run in front of the wall, isolating them from their team. They can't shoot the wall, so they'll have to trigger it in one way or another. Whether that's by jump peeking quickly and then waiting it out or falling right into your trap, it's still going to be incredibly obnoxious to deal with. Now, getting value out of this ability on offense will be slightly more tricky. Shear can be used as a flank guard as it provides information when triggered. However, this is kind of a lame use for such a unique ability, and it won't exactly stop a flank, it will just notify you that they are there. You can instead use it to block off enemies from spawn during a retake, or place it on the other side of smokes to trap aggressive defenders. Finally, we have Vyse's ultimate, Steel Garden. Similar to a Killjoy ult or a Breach ult, this ability covers a very large area. It takes a second to go off, but after a short delay, it removes everyone's primary weapon in the radius. Now, there is a long time before it comes into play, and once activated, enemies can still move freely, use abilities, and use their pistols. So it's not a complete disable like they might be with a lockdown, or stunned like they might be in a Breach ult. That being said, this ability is still pretty crazy. Losing your primary weapon in most rounds is a pretty big deal. And if you use it on an enemy's buy round, that could be like 14,000 credits that you just yoinked away from them in an instant. Because of this, Steel Garden is one of the best ultimates in the game to farm early on. If you can get this ability by your first buy round after winning pistol and bonus, you're really going to frustrate the enemy team. That means they had a pistol round, an eco round, and now they're on an eco again essentially because of your ultimate. For this reason, during the early game, you want to grab as many ultimate orbs as you can and pick up a lot of kills on your bonuses, playing quite aggressively. On offense, the ultimate is quite intuitive. Using it on executes is going to be your primary goal. However, on defense, you have three options. You can use this ability to fight for space as, again, another trap setup, to prepare to destroy and execute as the enemy team comes into sight, or to make retake much easier as your team looks to push into sight. Long story short, you have the ability to turn any round into an eco round for your opponents, which is really freaking crazy. Now, for the second half of this video, what we are going to do is break down a bunch of rounds from pro players using Vyse and getting a ton of value out of her kit. Throughout these clips, one major thing we want to highlight is how aggressive these players play. Vyse is intended to be an initiator / sentinel hybrid, utilizing her flash and wall to set up traps and make plays. While with Cypher and Killjoy, you might find players playing a bit more passively to preserve their util and maintain map control, on Vyse, fighting is the name of the game. For starters, take a look at this clip from Asuna as he begins a retake from flank.
There's one in garage window.
Spike planted. Redundant. Flash placed. Blind. Good hit. Shame. My ultimate's ready. One enemy remaining. Bring me the arsenal! Get out of my way!
After landing his first kill silently, he quickly shifts pace, utilizing his flash on sight aggressively, sort of how you might see with a breach flash. This not only gives himself time to scale up in front of the enemy's Vyse Thorns, but it also provides his team an opening to potentially get out of spawn utilizing his pressure. Once he gets into cubby, you'll see that he's in range to land a massive Steel Garden ultimate, locking out players on sight from using their primary. This forces the enemy Jet to pop her knives to even stay in the round. Alas though, it is no use as Asuna lands his third kill in the round, securing the win. Vyse's ult is fantastic when used on retakes like this to force your opponents into really uncomfortable positions. They may have planned to play one post plant position with their rifle, only to find out that they're left with a classic at a major disadvantage. It's really not something that you want to deal with. Now let's dive into another defensive play, this time from Ye.
Wait, what's up, sorry?
Last place.
I'm Gameleap B, so
Rip and tear.
quick, fast retake.
Except for aim. They're coming A again.
Retrieving flash.
We're coming back mid, coming back mid.
Just died.
One mid.
One enemy
Last one
remaining.
bottom. Tiles.
You'll notice his setup is pretty standard, utilizing his wall, flash, and thorns all to lock down the B site. The nice thing about Vyse's wall is that it serves as an effective tripwire for your team, letting you know that nobody has crossed that area. Regardless of where you go on the map, this wall will activate the moment that an enemy walks out, giving him the security to turn his back on this position if he's needed somewhere else. While this round doesn't focus on the utility setup on site too much, you'll notice that Ye is taking full advantage of this freedom when he chooses to quickly rotate through mid to help his team on A. Most other agents, you might be a bit nervous about a lurk potential in B main, but due to the global presence of her wall, he just doesn't have to worry about it. He can fight mid while also leaving B completely secure, which is a super awesome and underrated part of her kit. When you're on defense as Vyse, you should really be seeking out these fights like Ye is here. Since you only have one wall to lock down the map, you don't always have to take the safe route by rotating through spawn. It's oftentimes better for you to rotate through mid so you can get that early info like Ye did on the enemy's movements, giving him the opportunity to make plays in the round. Finally, let's look at a bit more of an intense round from Curry. If you guys don't know Curry, he is an absolute monster on really any agent, and he's going to be showcasing his skills here.
Oh, there's actually two?
No charges.
He's dashing top you all.
I'm just gonna keep charge.
Flash place.
Yeah.
Launching thorns. My territory, my rules. Thorns activated. I have them now. One enemy remaining.
The longest.
Oh yeah.
Defenders win.
Yeah. That's the Vyse clip. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the best.
He starts out with a really nasty blender setup, similar to how you might see Killjoy plays her mollies. The setup works spectacular though, because the Vyse's thorns are even larger than Killjoy's molly, allowing them to clog up short even that much more. His wall in short also guarantees that if enemies jump over into sight, they will not be able to run backwards to avoid his trap. To top this all off, he also places a flash on Truck, allowing him to swing into his trapped enemies while they are full blind. This setup is disgusting, and he's going to go crazy with it. After shooting the Gecko Flash and having his Reyna die, Curry quickly repositions into U-Haul to utilize his trap. As soon as he hears the enemies walking through his thorns, you'll notice Curry pops his flash and immediately swings U-Haul wide. The flash comboed with his thorns makes it basically impossible for any trades to come in, and combined with some clean shots, Curry is able to pick up practically an instant 4K and secure the last round of the game. We know, it's disgusting, and when you dump all of your util together like this, you can absolutely decimate your opponents when they commit to a push. This is the ideal case though when playing Vyse, but oftentimes your enemies will steer clear of you, and after watching this clip, it's for obvious reasons. That's why on defense, you're likely going to want to look to place one thorn for sight initially, and not be afraid to pull back your flash when you go to rotate so that you'll have some util for later in the round on a potential retake. Remember, if you commit all of your util to one site before the round even starts, if you end up having to leave that site for retake, it's going to feel pretty bad. All right, now let's flip the script and take a look at what offense looks like on Vyse. If you really want to get the most value out of Vyse, a lot of the power on executes is going to be utilizing not only your flash for entry, but also your thorns to block off key areas on the site or prevent floods. In this clip from Asuna, take a look at how he tosses two massive thorns.
Rip and tear. Not ready yet. Rip and tear. Thorns are live. Thorns activated. Bring them down. Mangled. No good. Wall set.
One back sight and one in the spawn smoke to prevent the flood. This spawn one is kind of hard to see because it is in a smoke, but these thorns are so massive, he even lands a kill. And this wasn't like a 6 HP accidental kill steal. His thorns did over 240 damage. That is crazy. You can find a bunch of nasty lineups with these thorns to land exactly where you want them on site. And the best part is the area of effect is just huge. Once they're activated, they're pretty much impossible to avoid. Now with your wall, you have two options on offense. You can either place it to watch flank, sort of how you would with the tripwire, or you can use it to set up a trap on site for post play. Let's take a look at what the second one might look like.
Where are you? Dropping smokes. Marked one. There, take them! Blinding through. Not ready yet. Retrieving flash. Reloading.
Okay, give me a sec.
Wall set.
Nowhere to run!
Bring me the arsenal!
One flank.
Spike planted. Lunging thorns. No more thorns. Blinding crack.
Okay, Venom's focused.
One enemy remaining.
Behind this wall.
In this clip, you'll see after taking sight, Asuna is able to set up his wall towards spawn. Along with this, he places his flash through the default box, as well as places a thorns in the choke point. Unfortunately, this one ends up getting shot. You'll see how this plan all comes together though, with our classic trigger and response tactic. The wall triggers as an enemy walks through it, and instantly Asuna responds by popping his flash and swinging. Vyse is the queen of trap setups, and stuff like this is going to be your absolute bread and butter. Of course, you can always choose to use your wall on flank if you're worried about that. In this clip, Asuna uses his wall to watch his back and follows his team long.
I'll find you.
Stopping fire.
I'm not going short.
Smokes.
Blocking blast. Blinding. Good hit.
You guys are alone.
Triple tear. Thorns activated. Hush up. Redundant. Launching thorns. Thorns down.
I'm all okay?
Smoking heaven.
Spike planted. Bring me the flashing. My ultimate's ready. Retrieving flash.
Are you playing up?
Teammates playing for bomb. Yeah, I should play up.
One enemy remaining.
3 down.
Was CT. CT.
Last player standing.
101. 2 bodies.
Shit, bro.
Since Vyse doesn't have that much great util for clearing short, it's kind of risky for him to go down there alone. So instead, he just decides to wrap short later with his team once they get on site. Now, he's not giving it all up though. You'll see that Asuna uses his flash through the wall in short to see if he gets any tags. If it does tag a player, it's a pretty good sign that somebody is playing short and they will need to deal with them before securing a plant. You'll notice though, the enemy Clove places this really tricky smoke on site that really messes things up. In response to this, Asuna decides to throw his thorns through the smoke to mess up any players playing on the other side of it. This is a common position that players like to play around this Clove smoke placed in high elo, and Asuna knows this, so placing a thorns here to really mitigates the potential of that player on the other side. With this, you'll notice that he plays close with his teammate, looking to weed out any players in short, and then he quickly turns to focus his attention on site. After landing the kill onto Sova, he immediately looks to throw his second thorns towards spawn to stop any players from coming in while he plants. Notice how when he throws this thorns, he actually jump peeks the angle to make sure that if they had walked out, they're less likely to instantly headshot him. Then after planting the spike and his thorns have expired, you'll see he pops his ultimate along with another flash from the original arc rose so that he can swing spawn before repositioning. He ends up doubling back on this after he realizes that his teammate is playing close, but the last thing that we really want to highlight is how after the second flash and checking flank, Asuna picks up his arc rose once again for potential use later in the round. It's going to be easy when playing Vyse to forget about her flash after it's been placed, but don't. It has only a 20-second cooldown, so you can get a ton of uses out of this if you're constantly thinking about it. Alright though guys, before we wrap this up, let me tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and we think that is a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like your local gym membership promising that you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered you that. Not us though, we've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well in fact that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium Valorant guides on the internet. With over 1,000 guides curated into over 50 courses, no one else can compare. With your subscription, you also get access to the League of Legends and all of the World of Warcraft channels, so if you've been playing War Within like me, you're really going to enjoy this. We also offer a direct line of feedback with our subscribers in Discord, so if you have a game to show us or you have a question to ask us, then our coaches will get connected with you immediately and give you personalized feedback just for you. That's going to do it for us, but if you're really interested in climbing the stack, be sure to check out SkillCapped using the link below for a discount. And other than that, my name's Casey. I'll see you in the next one.